What is gravity? This is something that Einstein thought about deeply, and the answer he came up with was quite surprising. Gravity is not a force, but comes about from curvature and geometry. Let's see how by exploring the idea of space-time. The special theory of relativity had shown how there was no absolute space or time. More than that, the constant speed of light had other implications. We could no longer use Newton's ideas of a static, unchanging space in which things happened. Space was somehow individual to the observer, and the classical concepts of motion were no longer valid. In addition to space and time being personal to us, Einstein also worked out the principle of equivalence. That is, constant acceleration and gravity are not only indistinguishable from each other, but that they are the same thing. So, all this being the case, Einstein began thinking about what gravity could be and how it arises. It cannot be a force in the sense that Newton said. Gravity must have some other underlying explanation. It turned out that the key to explaining gravity lay in geometry and the shape of space. In his thought experiment thinking about the principle of equivalence, Einstein had worked out that light must be bent in the presence of gravity, just like light was bent when it was in an accelerating rocket ship. So gravity caused light to take a curved path, but Einstein knew that light always took the shortest path. So the only conclusion was that the shortest path itself must be curved. And if this was the case, then space itself must also be curved. This insight opened the door to Einstein developing the General Theory of Relativity, and in it he proposed that space itself has a curvature, and it is this curvature that leads to the effect that we call gravity. But although Einstein realized that space must be curved, it was not yet clear to him how curved space could bring about gravity. As usual, Einstein did a thought experiment. He imagined two people standing at the equator on Earth facing north. They decide to walk north. Both of them start off moving north along a line of longitude, and this is at right angles to the equator. And because of this, they start off moving in lines parallel to each other. But as they go further north, the two lines of longitude continue converging because the lines are obviously going to meet up at the North Pole. So each person is moving in a straight line as far as they're concerned, but they are getting closer together as they go further north. It is as if some unseen force is pushing them together, even though they are travelling along straight lines. The two people meet once they get to the North Pole, and their conclusion is that something forced them to move closer together, even though each of them walked in a straight line on the surface of the Earth. This thought experiment gave Einstein the concept of how gravity comes about as a result of curvature. It feels like there's an invisible force pushing the two people closer together, but it is actually the fact that the people are moving on a curved surface that causes this effect. We will look into more detail at this idea of curvature in a future video, but for now this analogy of two people moving on a sphere serves as a good way into thinking about curvature and how the effect of curvature can make it appear as if there's a force present. What Newton called a force is actually an effect caused by how things move due to curvature. In this way, it became clear to Einstein that gravity was inextricably linked to the curved geometry of space. To develop this idea further, Einstein got help from two other people. One was Einstein's old professor from Zurich, Hermann Minkowski, who was a very accomplished mathematician. Minkowski had developed a new concept which combined the three dimensions of space and one dimension of time into a four-dimensional single entity called spacetime. In a really insightful piece of work, Minkowski had used the concept of spacetime to explain the special theory of relativity, and he presented his ideas in a famous lecture in 1908 entitled Raum und Zeit, Space and Time. The lecture included Minkowski's spacetime diagrams, a way of representing the four dimensions of spacetime. The spacetime diagrams are essential when discussing general relativity, and we will see these in later videos when we talk about coordinates and light cones in spacetime. In his lecture, Minkowski concluded that space by itself and time by itself are doomed to fade away, and only a kind of union of the two will preserve an independent reality. So for Minkowski, the old way of treating space and time as separate things disappeared, all replaced with a single four-dimensional space-time. Initially, Einstein was not convinced that space-time was necessary to progress his ideas, but further discussions with Minkowski convinced Einstein that Minkowski was right. Space-time was not just a mathematical construct, it actually gave the correct insight into reality and how to deal with space and time. Unfortunately, the year after his lecture, Minkowski suddenly died from appendicitis. This was a major loss to mathematics, but fortunately for Einstein, he knew another brilliant mathematician who could help him with the advanced mathematics that was needed for general relativity. Einstein was himself a very competent mathematician, but not to the level of his good friend Marcel Grossmann. Grossmann had just finished his doctoral thesis on the geometry of curved surfaces called Riemannian geometry. This was good timing indeed, because this was exactly what Einstein needed. And so Einstein learned about the geometry of curved surfaces from Grossmann, and Einstein's working on general relativity show just how much he learnt and owed to his good friend Marcel Grossmann. Einstein would spend the next few years in finalizing his general theory of relativity, until he presented the full theory in a weekly series of lectures at the Prussian Academy of Sciences in Berlin during November 1915, complete with the mathematics of curved surfaces and spacetime. Even in the days between each of the weekly lectures, Einstein was still busy working on refining his theory and redoing his calculations, but by the end of November 1915, he had presented the complete general theory of relativity. This theory defined how space-time curves in the presence of mass and energy, and how the effects of mass and energy affect space-time. Years later, the American physicist John Wheeler would succinctly capture the essence of general relativity in a single soundbite, when he said, "Matter tells space-time how to curve, and space-time tells matter how to move." One of the proofs which Einstein offered in his November 1915 lectures was that the equations of general relativity correctly predicted the anomalous orbit of Mercury. Newton's laws could not account for the precession of Mercury's orbit, where the elliptical path continuously rotated with each orbit, but general relativity perfectly predicted the observed behavior of Mercury. This proof, along with others which would follow in the years ahead, would cement the status of general relativity as Einstein's greatest achievement, maybe even the greatest body of work ever by a single scientist. So this is how general relativity was structured, with Minkowski's four-dimensional space-time containing everything that happens in the universe. Space-time is not something that is in the background and things happen in it or on top of it. Space-time is the fundamental fabric of the universe, and what happens to space-time determines how matter and energy move, how they behave, and how they interact. The presence of mass changes the curvature of space-time, and the amount of curvature depends on the amount of mass. And of course, we know that mass and energy are equivalent, so strictly speaking, it is energy that changes the curvature of space-time, but commonly we can say mass when we are talking about physical objects like stars and planets. All of us, no matter how small, change the curvature of space-time. So I am curving space-time around me and you are curving space-time around you. It's just that the curvature is imperceptibly small, so we can't measure or notice it in everyday life. But something more massive, like a star, curves space-time appreciably and in ways which are noticeable by the effects that the curvature has on other bodies or on light. We will see some of these effects in the future. With the general theory of relativity, a hierarchy of theories finally emerged. General relativity covers everything in space-time, so it is the most complete theory of how the universe works on the largest scales, and it includes a treatment of what we mean by gravity. If we're away from regions of curved space-time, so we can locally call that region of space-time as being flat, then gravity is either zero or constant. And in this case, we can use special relativity. And if the speeds of motion are small compared with the speed of light in this flat space-time, then we can use Newton's laws as a good enough approximation, and they will work well, like they do on Earth. Even though gravity is not a force, we often call it a force for convenience and simplicity, and I may do so at times because it is just such a common phrase. Gravity acts like a force, and the effects we see appear to be as if it was a force. But really, gravity is just a manifestation of the curvature of space-time. So in this illustration, the sun causes space-time to curve, and the Earth moves due to that curvature. It is the curvature which actually makes the Earth orbit the sun. And the Earth itself causes space-time around it to curve, and it is in Earth's curved space-time that the moon and satellites will orbit. So this was the great advance in physics which Einstein proposed in his general theory of relativity. The presence of mass curves space-time, and that curvature causes an effect which we perceive as gravity. Gravity is not a force as Newton claimed it was, but it is a consequence of the curvature of space-time itself. Newton had defined the way we could calculate the apparent force of gravity in his law of gravitation, and that gives the correct answers in most cases for how bodies remain in orbit. So we can work out many things which happen as a result of Newtonian gravity. It is just that the underlying explanation which Newton gave is not the ultimate answer. Gravity is not a force, but we can treat it like one in a lot of cases to keep things simple. The concepts of general relativity can be confusing and sometimes be difficult to understand, but Einstein's greatest achievement has stood the test of time, and countless tests have proven the theory to be correct. The general theory of relativity is our best way of understanding the universe. We will continue over the next few videos to look at various aspects of general relativity, but I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to how its central idea of space-time came about and what it means. So until next time, keep thinking physics.